seconds. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. and call on Councillor O'Hare to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Wendouraq, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hare. We got a full house here tonight. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? Councillor DeRose and a seconder, Councillor Sentence. Go ahead.
Ask for a motion in regard to someone speaking later on.
In regard to what, your mic's not on, I can't.
I just wanted to, I don't see the person here, but it's a mental health advocate that I wanted to allow to speak tonight if we voted on it. Is that possible?
How do you want me to handle
Mr. Mayor, we don't currently have anything on the agenda with regards to that. So I would suggest that we not, that we abide by the procedural bylaw in that respect.
Okay, can I make a notice of motion later then?
Yes, you could.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. That would be the best time to do it, Councillor. Adoption of the agenda. I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Adoption of the minutes. CL 11-2023 from Tuesday, April 11th, 2023. CL 12-2023 from Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. Special meeting. Can I get a mover and a seconder? I got a mover, Councillor Decker. Seconder, Councillor O'Hare. Are there any errors or omissions? Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's no errors or omissions, but I just want to make a comment regarding the special council meeting. Item 5.2. We seem to have special council meetings at some of, I find, inappropriate times for those that have some work commitments. I know we had a meeting later on, but I think we're going to have to look at some sort of procedural bylaw that we have meetings at scheduled times. I've always recommended Tuesday evenings as opposed to, that one was at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. Makes it difficult for those that are employed. And
Councillor, that has nothing to do with the adoption of the minutes. If you want to bring that up, you can bring it up.
I'm speaking to the minutes. So if you want to cut me off, cut me off. Thank you.
Yes, I will, because you're not speaking to the minutes. The minutes are of the meeting that took place. Go ahead, Councillor Long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll speak to the minutes. The problem here with these minutes is it shows us as absent, not showing up to a meeting. The problem is the short notice given. I didn't even know this meeting was going to be there. I take great pride in my attendance to meetings, so I think there has to be a better way to announce that we may be absent, but with reason. Okay. So I think that's something we need to look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'll take it. Okay. I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, up first, we got a check presentation and photo. It's regarding Niagara Nutrition Partners anonymous donation. And I'll just do a quick preamble and then I'll turn it over to Jessica Stevenson, Project Manager for Niagara Nutrition Partners. The City of Thorold, with the help of an anonymous donor, are honored to present this check for $40,968.64 to Niagara Nutrition Partners. This funding will go to help nutrition programs in all elementary and secondary schools in Thorold this school year. The anonymous donor, a Thorold business person, contacted me after hearing of the funding shortage affecting school food meal programs and wanted to help. I put this individual in touch with Jessica Stevenson, project manager of Niagara Nutrition Partners, and this donation is a result of that discussion. The donor said to me that having a successful business in the city of Thorold made this donation possible, and that no one should go to school hungry. So I'd like to call on Jessica Stevenson to come up and speak, and then we'll do the check presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you to all of you. I'm inspired by the City of Thorold and the commitment to connecting community and investing in the next generation. Regionally, Niagara Nutrition Partners serves a healthy breakfast, snack, and/or lunch in 201 school programs across Niagara. Right here in Thorold, there are 7 spread throughout both school boards. Educators and school administration staff join me tonight to thank you for seeing the value in what we are collectively doing. These programs are beyond filling stomachs. School meal programs also foster feelings of self-worth and belonging. Breakfast programs may focus on children specifically, but their impact ripples over to families, schools, and entire communities. Feeding kids feeds our future, and we couldn't be more grateful for this anonymous, generous contribution. Thank you for saving student nutrition programs in Thorold. We're all breathing a sigh of relief as we focus our energy into long-term solutions.
Thank you, Jessica. So now I ask you to come forward here. I'd like all council members, please, to come and be part of this picture, as well as Jessica. I just want Councillor DeRose to read one of the cards. It's really heartfelt. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had hundreds of cards written by our students this past week. This is from a very thankful Ava in grade 5. All I can really say is thank you for your donation. It means so much to our entire school. Like our class only has 6 Chromebooks for all 27 of us, and I hope what you did inspires many others to do the same. Even if I don't know you, I'm thankful for you, and a big heart at the end. So just a wonderful gesture by these kids and the anonymous donor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor DeRose. I'll put that with the rest of them. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Now we'll move on to the mayor's remarks. Thank you to everyone who joined us on April 22nd as we celebrated the unveiling of the Indigenous Unity Garden at the Mel Swart Lake Gibson Conservation Park, fittingly on Earth Day. The Unity Garden will be a focal point for ongoing programming aimed at celebrating the values and richness of Indigenous culture within our community. Many city staff, Councillors Decker and O'Hare, Regional Councillor Whalen, MP Vance Badaway, MPP Jeff Birch were also in attendance. Thank you to the One Thorold Truth and Reconciliation Committee, Chair Fred Neal, Dan Pelche, Mark Kawabi, Reverend Canon Catherine Morgan, and Michelle Elise Burnett, as well as Master Craftsman Dean McCullen, for all you have done to move this project forward in conjunction with city staff, Dave Baldoni, Steve Santo, and their teams. Special thanks to Michelle Elise Burnett for your guidance and leadership on the Indigenous Unity Garden project. We look forward to working together on future programming. We are proud to say that Niagara's first Indigenous outdoor classroom space is home to Thorold. Thank you to all the incredible volunteers who came out to participate in our Earth Day community-wide cleanup. Despite rainy weather, councillors, board and committee members, city staff, and residents worked together to clean up parks, trails, and green spaces. Also on Earth Day, April 22nd, the NPCA hosted the opening of the annual trout fishing season at St. John's Conservation Area Pond, located in the city of Thorold. It was only fitting that the first cast was made by Elizabeth DeFruscia, wife of the late Dominic Mickey DeFruscia, who served as our representative on the NPCA board for over 25 years. April 22nd was a busy day in our city. I also brought greetings on behalf of City Council to the Ontario Horticultural Society District 9 Spring AGM hosted by Port Colborne and Thorold Garden Clubs. This event was held at the Ontario paper Thorold Senior Centre and was very well attended. Thank you to the Thorold Garden Club Chair, Leslie Daniels, for the invitation to bring greetings. Final touches were put on the Port Robinson Eco Park project this past week. We would like to thank everyone who was involved in making this project a reality for our community. Thorold Secondary School staff, particularly Principal Janice Sargent, Mr. Bernardi, and his tech class students from grades 10, 11, and 12 who worked in conjunction with Councillor O'Hare. Walker Industries for their donation of mulch and aggregate, as well as their employees who spent a volunteer day to come out and work with city staff to construct the turtle mounds. Councillor O'Hare for spearheading and leading this project, Councillor Sattens for working with local children to construct the duck nesting tubes, Niagara Beeway and AJ Slinger Service, and all our incredible staff who spent time out on the site to work with our volunteers to install all the structures and habitats. This is another great example of what can be achieved through partnerships and collaboration for the greater good of the community. And I'll call on Councillor O'Hare. He has a few things to mention regarding this project, and I want to make sure get mentioned. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'd also like to thank Jeff Holman for his belief in the project and the support that you provided all along. And special thanks go to Dave Baldoni, who worked tirelessly behind the scenes, and as well as making sure that we received the materials when we needed them, as well as picked up and arranged delivery and installation. It was a phenomenal event to watch, so I'm really glad to be a part of that. I'd also like to thank resident Joe Pritula, who donated some materials for the cedar shingle roofs, as well as expert advice and experience that we were able to pass on and share with the students at Thorold High. It was a great experience and a huge success. I really want to thank everyone who was involved in it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hare. On April 27th, on behalf of City Council, I attended the kickoff for the 20th annual Help Kids Shine campaign, which raises funds and awareness in support of the Niagara Children's Center and runs the month of May. This kickoff event was held next door at the 4 Point Sheraton here in Thorold. Each year, more than 5,800 children and youth in Niagara with physical, developmental, and communicative delays are supported by the range of services offered by the Niagara Children's Center. This fundraising campaign helps make these, as well as additional programs not covered by provincial government funding, possible. Your donation can provide every child in Niagara with the opportunity to reach their full potential. On April 28th, we recognized the National Day of Mourning. Flags across the city were lowered to half-mast to honor those who have lost their lives, suffered injury or illness on the job, or experienced a workplace tragedy. The Niagara Regional Labor Council held a ceremony in memory of Robin Lafleur, who tragically passed away in the Esquire, Canada explosion in Port Robinson in 1999. The ceremony was held in Port Robinson Park by the tree planted there in her honor. Thank you, Councillor Hanley, for being present at the ceremony and representing City Council. As always, maintaining a healthy and safe work environment will continue to be our top priority. International Firefighters Day is observed each year on the 4th of May. On this day, please remember those firefighters who have died while serving our community or dedicated their lives to protecting the safety of us all. Firefighters are essential to the safety and security of our community. On behalf of City Council staff and our residents, we thank you for all you do, not only on May 4th, but every day. Yesterday was First Responders Day. I will read a quote from our Director of Fire and Emergency Services, Terry Dixon. On this year's First Responders Day, I would like to recognize the important contributions of all first responders in our community, our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics for the incredible work they do. But it extends far beyond these primary emergency response groups that you see out on site during an emergency. I would also like to recognize the supporting agencies that people may not normally consider a first responder. Public health, public works, gas utilities, and hydro, just to name a few. These supporting agencies also play a critical role in keeping our community safe. By working together, we are able to achieve so much more for our community. On May 6th and 7th, communities throughout the United Kingdom and Commonwealth will mark the coronation of His Majesty King Charles III with coordinated illuminations of iconic locations. To echo this event, the City of Thorold will be illuminating City Hall, Royal Emerald Green, in participation. Hotel du Schaefer Hospital Foundation and Pastone Foundation have been chosen to receive proceeds from Tim Hortons locations in Thorold, St. Catharines, and Niagara-on-the-Lake during Smile Cookie Week, May 1st to 7th. City staff and Councillor Sentence were present at the Thorold Stone Road Tim Hortons today in support of this exciting campaign, buying and decorating cookies. Thank you to all those who support this initiative. For the second year, the Bike to Beat Myeloma Canada Ride will take place on May 7th in 7 locations across Canada. The Niagara Region Ride will once again be leaving and ending at the Port Robinson Community Centre. Registration begins at 8:30 a.m. Your support will go a long way to improving the lives of those impacted by myeloma, help to find a cure. For more information or to sign up, please go to www.myelomaride.ca. The Port Robinson Ferry, Bridget, begins operation for the upcoming season on Saturday, May 6th. It will run from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays. Beginning Saturday, May 20th, the ferry will begin daily service for the remainder of the season. Summer swim lessons at the Thorold Community Pool. The city's online registration portal will be open on May 2nd at 8:30 a.m. for Thorold residents and on May 9th at 8:30 a.m. for non-residents. For more information, visit www.thorold.ca/pool. Congratulations to Thorold boys Easton Linz and Carter Timmons on being drafted in the OHL Junior A selection draft. Easton Lenz is a forward and went to Peterborough Pete's, and Carter Timmons is a defenseman and went to Sarnia Sting. The Thorold Museum received a $75,000 financial gift from the Masonic Mountain Lodge number 221 on Saturday, April 29th. The presentation took place at Fire Station 1. In attendance were Councillors Hanley, Longo, and O'Hare. Museum board members, including spokesperson President Malcolm Woodhouse, and Masonic Order Lodge number 221 members, spokesman Treasurer Kenneth Atmcgian, I'll get that right, and BIA Chair Serge Carpino. Thank you for your generous financial gift to the Thorold Museum, and thank you, Councillor Hanley, for bringing greetings on behalf of City Council. And that's the end of my mayor's remarks. Up next, we have presentations. Up first, Mountain View Lemonade Day for Facts Niagara, and I have Carolyn Polgrabia, President, Board of Trustees of the Facts Foundation. And I'll call on Carolyn. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Get my glasses. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for having us at your meeting tonight. I'm very excited to share some information about the Mountain View Lemonade Day, which will be taking place on Saturday, June 10th. We're excited to tell you it's our second annual event, and we're hoping to once again receive your support and your endorsement for this initiative. You can go to the next page. My name is Caroline Polgrabia, and I'm the president of the Board of Trustees for the Foundation of Family and Children's Services Niagara, and I'm joined by our Director of Communications, Mr. Brett Sweeney, and I am also joined by my undying inspiration, Jaden Polgrabia. If you will allow me, would it be okay if Jaden did the presentation?
Absolutely.
Yours, Betty.
The foundation has been around for nearly a quarter century, raising money to support the mission of Facts Niagara. Facts receives government funding for core programs and services. The foundation exists to raise funds to further support the children, youth, and families being served by the agency. The money raised by our generous donors goes to support programs and services that are identified by our hardworking staff who in their daily work see opportunities to go above and beyond to ensure our youth have everything they need to thrive. The foundation is able to support the agencies in programs that do not receive government funding.
She's on the right side. You're good.
The idea came from a couple young people in Niagara who wanted to do something to help other children. As you may recall, Mountain View Lemonade Day invites families to set up a lemonade stand in their communities to collect donations to support our summer camp programs. Summer camp has so many social and emotional benefits, like building self-confidence and helping advance social skills, and creating lifelong memories. Thanks to our title sponsor, the Mountain View Building Group, 100% of the money raised goes to sending deserving children to summer camp and helps us provide everything a family needs to host a very successful lemonade stand. Here on the screen you can see a quote from our title sponsor. There are so many children in our community who deserve an opportunity to be with friends, connect with nature, and make lasting childhood memories, by Mark Bassiano, President of Mountain View Building Group. Families supported by Facts sometimes lack the financial resources to send their children to camp. And we truly believe that all children should have the opportunity to have the enriching experiences in childhood. This is why this event is very important. Last year, with the support of families and municipalities such as yourselves, we were able to raise more than $85,000 to send children to camp. This year, we are hoping for an even bigger and better event that can make a positive difference in the lives of even more families. So what did $85,000 support? Last year, we were able to give more than 400 children in the Niagara region with the summer experience. This included sending the children to week-long day camps within the region. It also includes sending children to week-long overnight camps outside of Niagara. We also supported foster parents so that they could take their children on camping excursions. And because we are still dealing with the COVID pandemic, we also provide special at-home camp baskets to families with the health and safety concerns so they could enjoy a wonderful summer from the comfort of their own homes. These baskets included things like scooters, sports equipment, sprinklers, and other toys to help explore kids' nature. Family and Children's Services of Niagara provide a range of services in the community to keep children safe and families strong. Did you know that more than 93% of families supported by the agency receive services in their own home? The goal to provide proactive support to keep families together, and the goal of the Lemonade is to give as many children we can a summer camp experience. As I mentioned, we provide everything a family needs to host a successful lemonade stand, including t-shirts, banners, hats, stickers, and lemonade concentrate, and pitchers and cups. As you can see in the photo on the slide, families also decorate their own stand and make them fun and engaging for everyone. All of the items I'd mentioned previously are funded through our sponsors, meaning every dollar raised by the kids goes towards sending other kids to summer camp. There are no administrative fees and no direct costs to families who want to participate. Lemonade stand registration will be open this week. Everyone can visit the Foundation's website for more information and to register their lemonade stand. They can also call the Foundation at the number on the slide. We are asking all the municipalities in Niagara to help make summer a little sweeter for everyone. We would be grateful for council's support in raising awareness and helping to increase the number of lemonade stands participating in our community. We would appreciate you sharing on your socials and as many other communication channels you have available. And if you are willing, we would appreciate June 10th, 2023 being declared Mountain View Lemonade Day for Fax Niagara. Thank you very much for your attention and consideration. I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. And now I'll open the floor for questions. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Great presentation. Thank you so much. Just a quick question. How many stands were there last year, roughly?
Roughly about 100.
Okay, we're going to try to break that record because I know we had our students from our school set one up at Big Red. My kids partnered with Donnie at Merrittville's daughter and nieces and nephews, and it was so much fun. I know the mayor made it, I think, to all of them, or most of them in Thorold anyway. And it was just a wonderful day. Thanks for what you guys are doing. You can't beat the cause, and we'll be getting people out there. Thank you.
Are there anyone else that has questions? Seeing none, I just want to say last year I did make it to, around to the whole loop, and I think we had roughly 12 in Thorold out of the 100. And we will get it out on social media. We will work hard to work with yous to promote it. It's a great initiative, and we look forward to breaking that $85,000 record this year. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Go Leafs, go.
Okay, well, second presentation is up next. We have Northland Power Thorold expansion bid. Operations, Mark Earhart, Senior Director of Commercial Operations, Northland Power, Inc. And I'll call you up. Are you doing the whole presentation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks, Shandy. Then go ahead, and then your presentation, you have 10 minutes, you know, and I know it's going to be hard for you to get in 10 minutes. And then we'll open the floor for questions, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for giving us the opportunity to present our new project from Northland Power. Thank you for the introduction as well. Northland is a global power producer at the forefront, over 35 years of success developing, constructing, and operating power projects across a range of technologies. We have a well-diversified portfolio of high-quality power infrastructure, over 3 gigawatt of operating capacity. Majority of our revenues come under contract through government counterparties. We have a significant development opportunities across multiple markets, up to 20 megawatt development pipeline to support growth. Significant depth of management experience we possess, and strong environmental and health and safety record we possess. IESO, which is the Independent Electric Supply Operator, issued a series of procurements targeting 1,500 megawatt of new natural gas capacity, including a long-term RFP that seeks resources to be in service between. Yeah. Oh, okay. So next slide, please. Yeah, that's right. A key partner in Ontario energy sector, Northland is answering this call with plans to bid a new 200 megawatt peaking plant, not more than 200 megawatt, just to let me correct myself, at Thorold into the ISO's long-term RFP, enough to power at least 100,000 homes. Northland Power is seeking a municipal endorsement from the City of Thorold to support the development, construction, and operation of an expansion of existing Thorold plant. Thank you. Through this project, Mr. Mayor, we will make sure that the local employment is there for 19 full-time positions until 2040. This would add 200 to 500 new opportunities for construction contract employment in 25 and 2026. It will boost the economic growth in the area. Local businesses will experience increased activity due to the spin-off opportunities. And it will make sure the property taxes are getting paid until at least 2040 with the expansion of the plant. And it will also give a reliable grid capacity, which is at least minimum 200, up to 200 megawatt, enough to power over 100,000 homes in the Niagara region. Our footprint on Ontario, our story begins in Ontario 1987. Today we remain true to our Canadian roots with an active and growing portfolio of projects. Located in Ontario and Saskatchewan, our gas turbines generate 3,308 gigawatt hours annually. Our 4 facilities in Ontario, Kirkland Lake North, Battleford, Spy Hill, and Thorold, use turbines to produce electricity in an efficient, reliable, and environmental responsible manner. Beyond natural gas, Northland operates 4 onshore wind farms, 11 solar farms, and 2 energy storage projects in development. Growing demand for electricity in Ontario and reduction in energy supply due to the retirement of certain plants in Ontario, nuclear refurbishments, and increase in the energy demand due to the population growth, electrification of certain sectors, including the transportation sector, and electrical vehicles, economic growth in the mining, industrial, and agriculture sectors. The role of the natural gas in the short term. So this is, again, I just like to emphasize the fact this is a capacity we're building, not energy. So capacity will be only producing power for a very short period of times during the peaking times. Thermal is necessary to balance out the province's renewable portfolio and is used in times of variability when the wind is not blowing and the sun isn't shining. Without new natural gas capacity to fill gaps in the short term, ISO would be reliant on emergency actions such as rolling blackouts to stabilize the grid. Natural gas expansion can be located closer to demand sources and on existing footprints, which is a Thorold plant in the city of Thorold, reducing the need of large transmission upgrades. Continuing to use natural gas in a limited way will allow businesses and consumers to continue with their electrification plans and decarbonize the electricity system without risking reliability or economic growth. The new 200 megawatt simple cycle peaking plant will have enough capacity to power over 100,000 homes at peak. Emissions from the new efficiency gas turbine will be 40% less than the governmental standards. The power contract from the ISO for capacity only, not energy, as I mentioned earlier, meaning that the expansion project will only operate during high demand times when electrical energy is most needed. This gas plant is designed to ramp up and down very quickly to balance the load of the Ontario renewable generation portfolio while enabling further penetration. The new simple cycle plant will be capable of burning natural gas and hydrogen blend, with modification could run on 80% hydrogen in the future as we look to transition to further clean energy solutions. As you may know, Atura Power is building a hydrogen plant. There could be a possibility of hydrogen sourced to the site. Community participation. We're building a strong relationship with local communities is rooted in Northland's values. Northland Power has been active and contributing member of the City of Thorold for more than 10 years. Over this time, we have provided an initiative including Macadam Park Thorold Community Splash Pad. We had planted endangered species, wildflowers, shrubs plantation, rain garden, and native tree infilling. On top of that, we have also contributed to supported many organizations. As you may see, some of them are listed on this slide. And we continue to be the member of community. And we'll be going through a community engagement planning. Northland will be running a community engagement prior to formally asking the municipality for a letter for endorsement, including a project website. The project website will go live on June 1st, 2023. Contact information to ask questions about the project. We will be engaging or conducting 2 town hall meetings, one in person and one virtual. I will be sending a full detail of the dates, but at this time I have some dates. June 5th will be noticed neighbors going. Neighborhood barbecue will be arranged June 28, 2023. We'll have a public town hall in person July 5th, 2023. We have a public town hall in virtual July 12, 2023. We will be requesting to the City Council for a formal endorsement August 1st, 2023 meeting. We'll be presenting to the region as well before the August 2023, and I encourage council to participate in town halls and open houses, and I will share the full detailed list and dates with City Clerk as well for the full community engagement planning. And there are some other dates here. Project bid is due October, November of 2023, and bid award will be Q1, Q2 of 2024, and the project and service date will be May 1st, 2027 at this time per the ISO schedule. Plant statistics and locations, we have 19 people on site. We have 4,748 consecutive days without a lost time accident since the inception of this plant from the commercial operation date. We're located on 90 Ellenberg Road. And some information slides are further ahead. The demand is going up on the Niagara region. From 2022, about 900 and some megawatt to all the way from 1,300 to 1,500 megawatt at peak by 2041. Next slide is Ontario demand forecast is also increasing. This is in gigawatts instead of megawatts for the Ontario demand. It will increase from at least from 23, 24 gigawatt to all the way from to 30 to 31 gigawatt by 2042. Provincial demand by sector is also, this is an information slide, residential sector, agricultural sector, commercial sector, transportation sector, and some other industrial sector and other electricity demand is going up in that time frame to almost 200 terawatt hours and net annual energy demand. And that is the end of the presentation, and I thank you all for giving me the opportunity, and I'm grateful if you have any questions for me and for my team.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, thanks for the presentation. It's excellent. I know originally when you built the first plant, it was like a $500 million investment into the community. Do you have any idea what this peaking power will be in terms of investment into the community in
Yes.
terms of dollar?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this will, based on our initial assessment, it will be at least $200 million or more investment into Thorold.
Excellent. And I know I can speak. I was on council when you originally came here, and you worked very diligently with the community. There was issues with remediation of the site because there was old buildings and stuff like that, and I know it was a bit disruptive for the community. You made it as best possible in terms of remediating, cleaning up of the road when there was mud and everything else, and I know eventually you ended up putting a splash pad in to help that part of the community. Is that something you'd be looking at again in terms of supporting the community, and B, if there might not be as much remediation as the first time, but if there is problems like that, will you work with our community to make sure that they're resolved as quickly as possible so the residents are least affected in that area?
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we will be working for a full environmental assessment of the project, and it's going to be at least a year time frame. If there is any issues, we'll be answering all the questions to the community, as well as we have to comply with the environmental compliance approval through the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, and also probably this project would lead into the federal approvals as well from the environmental front. And to answer your other part of the question, yes, we will be the active member of the community and will be supporting where needed, and we're all open to suggestions on that as well.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Mayor, just more of a statement than as a question. I appreciate the fact that you're having some public open house sessions so that the citizens of Thorold and the residents can actually talk to you and discuss some of the issues that they were possibly concerned in the past and how you can mitigate those going forward. So I appreciate the fact that you've included that as part of your plan to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. On your slides, if I could ask, you put down just till 2040. Is it only till 2040 because it's the federal government's objective by 2050 to eliminate 100% of natural gas electricity production? I work for Hydro One, actually, so I'm giving you a little insight. I work on one side of the spectrum, and I believe right now natural gas is responsible for 10,000 megawatts of power. In Ontario, your company is probably basically a third responsible for that. So I asked you, put 2040, is it because by 2050 you're going to have to phase out if you don't meet the government regulations for the production of electricity through natural gas?
yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. The RFP is till 2040 for this type of RFP through the ISO. So the contract, if awarded to Northland Power, will be 2040 by the independent electric supply operator. And at this time, this is the only information I have, but this could be extended later on. I'm not sure, but this is a provincial project.
I asked that because actually the federal government, as you know, just came out with, there's a memorandum or a moratorium that's going to be set for 2027, it starts. Is your company situated where that they could put in the necessary environmental restrictions that the federal government's going to have so that you could continue beyond 2040?
Not at this time. The contract, the power purchase agreement through you, Mr. Mayor, will expire in 2040 based on the existing RFP from the ISO.
Okay, thank you. As just to comment, I asked that, Mr. Mayor, because it's noted that there'll have to be a $400 billion investment in the province of Ontario to support, and your slides speak volumes. The volume of electricity is increasing, but yet the production of electricity through today's presence is reducing. So unless we come up with some type of formula to increase the amount of electricity that's supplied to Ontario residents, there'll be a shortfall of thousands and thousands of megawatts by 2050. So that's why I asked the questions of the presenter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thank you for the presentation. I know I came to your invitation to the Northlands, and it was very good. I really appreciate you're going to do the public consultation and really hammer it home, because that was something that I was unaware of in my first term that really needs to be done. So I thank you. My only question to you is, I missed the date on when, and I guess we could bring it back up, when the website will go, when the project will go on the website.
Yeah, June 1st.
June 1st. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I don't have that date, but I just came to know today some dates, so this is why I just brought it. It's not in the presentations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Sentence, are you finished?
I'm done.
Okay, I seen Councillor O'Hare, and then I'll go back over here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, thank you for the presentation, Mr. Khan. Very informative, and as you know, I was fortunate to get a solo tour, as I was one day late when the original tour was arranged. And it's a wonderful facility. I was really impressed with how well organized it is. So my question is just concerning this new design that you want to incorporate into the building, and will it require more square footage, or will you simply be adding it within the building that exists at present?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and now this will require extra land secured with our neighbors, which is Bylaw. So working with them to secure more land to put a new machine there.
And that hasn't been secured yet, or you're?
We're working on it. We're in the final stages. We had a meeting this morning as well, through you, Mr. Mayor, and it will be secured hopefully this month. We're just working on some legalities and term sheets and contract requirements for that land secure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got Councillor Rose, and then Councillor Longo. You have your hand up as well. Okay.
For you, Mr. Mayor, thanks for attending tonight and presenting. Just a quick question. How are you going to inform residents? Because one issue we've been having with different entities is that people aren't informed in a mannerly way, and not everybody has internet. So are you going to come up with some different ways to get the word out about the PIC?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we will be hiring a third party, and they'll be sending us the letters to the community members, and we will be carving out the details in the next week or so. But I think what I heard from my team, we'll be sending twice the letters to the public and to the area residents. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate you coming. I guess my first question is, you'll be coming back and looking for municipal approval and endorsement. Why do you do that? This is zoned for this, isn't it? So why would you need our approval?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is a requirement from the government that we have to have a municipal endorsement to get the project built.
Great. And so just on that subject, do you need regional approval also? Will you be going to the region of Niagara to get approval?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, per the ISO's RFP, the regional approval is not needed, but we will be presenting to the region as well. I requested it for that, to present to the region as well.
That's great. I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah.
I guess my final question to you, based on your current operations, how would you describe your relationship with the local residents? Have there been many complaints, or I'm sure every operation may have some complaints, but have you been able to deal with issues that arise?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, we did receive a few complaints over the years. One of the biggest complaints is the yellow plume complaint we received through the public. And whenever the complaint comes to us, and we're exempted during that time, yellow plume it does not cause any extra hazard or emissions to the area. It is the time when the machine is passing through for that half an hour to 2 hour period, certain stage of ramping up, changes the color of the combustion to the yellow plume. So we present or forward that complaint to the ministry. Sometimes the complaint comes from the ministry, provincial officer, and ministry is informed and they audit us for emission standards or emission protocols that we are compliant with the environmental compliance approval, and we were always in compliant. It is just that yellow plume looks sometimes not comfortable to the sight of the people or the residents. So otherwise, there's no concerns on that one. So, and ministry is aware of that, and we're exempted under the PG7 environmental regulation on that. So.
Okay, great. I appreciate you educating me because I've seen that plume before and I've always wondered, but I'm always hoping that upper levels of government and ministries are looking out for us.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to comment one more time. And if you would like to visit our site, and I encourage you to come and visit our site, you'll be amazed to see that how clean the facility is, and we can be able to give you a presentation on the yellow plume, that why the yellow plume color comes up.
If I just may interject regarding the plume, because I went to the presentation there, can you explain the difference with this new turbine being a different type of turbine without the heat recovery aspect,
Yes.
that you would be up to temperature way quicker? Can you explain that?
Yes.
Because I think it's an important aspect.
Very good question, Mr. Mayor. And the new machine will be a very fast machine. So fast machine that within 10 minutes will be at 50% load. The existing, and you will not be able to see any plume because we will pass through that stage within 2 minutes. So the existing machine is the existing plant is a different type of plant just because we have a steam turbine at the back end. And when the steam turbine is at the back end, we need to respect the metal temperature of the steam turbine. That's why we cannot ramp up the gas turbine that fast. But the new plant, the new technology will be very fast acting, and within 10 minutes will be sitting at 50% or more load. And probably 10 to 12 minutes at full load. It'll be fast ramping up and fast shutting down. So you will not see any plume and no extra emissions. Rather, it will be 40% lesser emissions from the newer machine.
Are you done? You have it? Okay, I think Councillor Danzy, you had your hand up again.
Yeah, just a quick question. As Councillor Hanley mentioned, this peaking station is very important for not only Thorold, the businesses, but the whole area, because as it mentioned, it ramps up very quickly. So when you want to run your air conditioners on very, very hot days, that's what's going to be taking this peaking power in a very short span. The old peaking power used to be the coal nanocoke plant that spewed out a lot of toxicity, so they're moving to cleaner ones. That's an aside. Through you, Mr. Mayor, do you want council to put a motion on the floor? We refer this to staff so they come back with a report to meet the endorsement deadline?
Yes, I think that's good.
Okay, so I'll move that we do that, and again, with the caveat that we have these public meetings.
Yep.
So that we have input, and that is captured into the report that's going to be coming in front of council.
Can I get a seconder, Councillor Hanley? Okay. So does anyone want to speak to that, or was that fine? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. I think that's the prudent way to go. Any further questions for our presenter? Seeing none, I want to thank you. It's my second time through this one because I did go to the tour and visited the plant. Yeah. And I want to thank you for coming to council this evening, and we look forward to working together and on these open houses. And we will also, as well, through our communication, get the word out as well through our communication so that the residents are aware as well. So
Thank you, Mr.
very
Mayor,
much.
and I'm extremely grateful for giving me the opportunity to present. Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have Thorold Secondary School, our community high school. Janice Sargent, principal of Thorold Secondary School, will be presenting. Welcome. Welcome, Janice.
Thank you so much. I need to say I really appreciate Northland Power for following Jaden. As a teacher for 20 years, you never want to go after a student presentation like that, so thank you. Also, weird dynamic for me, not to be in the center of the room moving around and looking at all of you, but I'll do my best from this little area here. So, first, let me introduce myself. My name is Jana Sargent. I'm the principal of Thorold Secondary School. I am also a proud resident of Thorold, the Thorold community for my whole life. And joining me today is Stacy Veld, who is the superintendent of business services at the DSBN. So just wanted to give you some background information. This year, TSS is celebrating their 149th graduation. The school has been located where it stands right now in Thorold since 1875, which is a very long time. And that location has proved to be very wonderful for our students. Our current population is 665 and we're growing, more to come about that. We offer a full breadth of programming. We have university and college academic courses, as well as a wonderful apprenticeship pathways. We have many students heading directly into the skilled trades programs, which, as we know, is a needed area. One of the areas we're most proud of is our special education program. For any of you who might live near the school, you've probably seen us out on our community walks. We have 3 full classrooms of students with special needs. Some of the other great programs we have are specialty high skills majors, and what they are enhanced leadership programs for students in areas. So we have a health and wellness SHSM, which really focuses on students who might be going into the healthcare area, PSW, doctor, what have you. Information communication technology, which focuses on communication tech, media services, videography, comtech, all of those interesting areas, and manufacturing, which again is one of those great skill trades. So as the only secondary school in Thorold, we take great pride in providing exceptional learning and extracurricular opportunities for all of our students. At TSS, we value community, kindness, and collaboration, and we are Thorold proud. So let's talk about some of the City of Thorold and TSS collaborations. So the first, which we did get to hear tonight through the mayor, thank you very much, is the Port Robinson Eco Park. And that started with an email from Tim and some blueprints and a whole bunch of eager students. So our grade 10 and 11 construction classes started right away. Go ahead. And this is the work in progress. You can see here our students just jumping right into it, and the quality of work. I would love that cedar shingle on my shed in the backyard. If it's good enough for the birds, it's good enough for me. So that's some pictures as we progress, and here are the final products. So our grade 10 classes built the bat houses on the left or your right, and the grade 11 class built the swallow nesting barns, and it was just a wonderful experience. I was walking down the hallway today, and as I'm walking through, I see one of the boys who's in these pictures, and I said, hey, I'm going to city council tonight. What do I tell him? And I tell you, he lit up. And he said to me, I want them to know what an amazing opportunity it was to be part of something that is actually helping my community. And he was all smiles, and then he finished it off with, and Tim's the best. So not only did they grow in their skills, but also a real sense of civic pride. Another great collaboration with the city is the TSS hockey course. This was our first year offering it. We're one of the only schools in Niagara who has this course. So just to give you a bit of background, it's a full semester. We do it in semester 1, and our students are on the ice 3 days a week, and the other 2 days they're doing dry land or theory. And really, it only makes sense. I don't know of any Niagara high schools that are directly across the street from the community arena. So it was a wonderful opportunity for us to work together. And one of the aspects we're most proud of, and this is where the collaboration comes, is the reduction in the ice cost, because that meant that our students could do this entire course, a whole semester, for $125. It's an unbelievable opportunity. We removed so many barriers. Out of the spirit of the hockey course, TSS offered its first varsity boys and girls hockey teams this year. So not since the 90s have we had a boys, and I think the early 2000s was a girl. And if you could have been there that first home game, It was pretty exceptional. We had parents and grandparents, we had staff and students, we had a lot of the City of Thorold workers because shift change was happening at that time, so they were all up against the glass. A lot of them alumni actually, all out there supporting the blue and gold. And again, because of our partnership with the city, $35 to play on the hockey team. That is an unbelievable opportunity for the students of Thorold. So over the years, we've had lots of other community connections, and I just added a couple of them here. We've built some bike racks for both the City of Thorold and the Niagara region. And if you can see that map, that still is in the arena today. That's when our design tech class using AutoCAD came up with an exit and fire plan for the City of Arena, and I know our kids take great pride in that. Some other of our great community connections, I'm sure you recognize these buildings. Because of the location of our school, because we're right downtown, a lot of our students benefit from wonderful cooperative learning opportunities, and that's where they spend a morning or afternoon job shadowing. So you can see the pharmacy up there. We have students who are interested in going into pharmacy and they're working there. We've got the culinary program and some students at the Thorold Library. So our location really does serve our students very, very well. Here are some other community connections that are just happening right now. So the Thorold Library, they're setting up a teen advisory board, very exciting. So as you know, students need 40 hours of volunteer work. So many of our students do more than that. But we're volunteering with the Thorold Minor Sports at the senior centers, places of worship. As we know, local sports need volunteers in order to make those tournaments happen. And it's really awesome because the Thorold Secondary School students are an integral part of supporting those programs. Brock University around the corner from us. This is another cool partnership we have in our community. So this year, we had 2 students who participated in the Math and Science Mentorship Program. So only 20 students in all of Niagara get to participate. 2 of them were from Thorold High, both grade 12 students. One of them, over the course of first semester, working with a professor, created a sonic radar box to aid the deaf in mobility. So when they're walking, it's telling them there's an obstacle, move to your left. Our other student, working with the biomedical group, conducted medical drug repurposing research for COVID-19. So what medicines are already out there and how can we use those versus the different strands? And they were able to do that because they could hop on a bus and get to Brock in no time at all. So I can tell you that those grade 12 students have been accepted to engineering and to medical science. Another great program, and this ties into that wonderful presentation by Jaden, is the Home Build program. And so that is a DSBN regional program, but it's actually Thorold Secondary School teachers who teach that. So we take about 20 students a semester, and they go to a build. And they are there, they're there all day, whole semester, all the way from foundation to framing to finishing. And they learn the whole process. They get to work with all of the different trades. It's a wonderful experience, and it's open up to our grade 11 and 12 students. And that's through a great partnership with Mountain View Homes. And to no surprise to this group, we all know that Thorold is growing. And our central location at Thorold High School has lots of perks. I've highlighted a few of them for you. But it does have one significant disadvantage, and that's that we are landlocked. And we're the only secondary school in Niagara without a proper field. So in late 2021, DSBN and City of Thorold started working together to discuss the potential of building a synthetic turf field across the street from the high school at McMillan Park area. The school has used this field for many years for gym and extracurricular practices and our football, but without a proper field, TSS students are not provided the same opportunities or amenities as the other secondary schools in Niagara. For example, TSS has never had a home soccer game. We can't play soccer at school. We have band-aided and worked through ways to get football close to us. We've used the field, the ball diamond, at times we were using Richmond Field. But I mean, it would be amazing for us to fix that. And so here is the initial plan that was shared. And as you can see, it's a synthetic turf, which is good for football. It is good for lacrosse, it is good for soccer, but it's also got a really great walking track all the way around it. So that was our initial design, which we shared. And together with City Council, we're working to get it right. So there was public consultation, and that illustrated that there's a really strong community desire to work collaboratively. And that was from all of the sports association, Thorold Baseball, Thorold Soccer, Flag Football. I don't know if you know this about Flag Football, but they have over 1,000 participants. And that's a local guy, Matty Hill, he lives in Thorold. All winter long, they're renting the Thorold gym and doing all of their winter training at Thorold High School because it's a beautiful central location. So I'm going to show you in a second the new drawings. Oh, can you go back one sec? Which included the community splash pad and playground because that was asked. And so the DSBN and City of Thorold are working together to finalize a plan that will be mutually beneficial to the students and families of TSS and the community of Thorold. Here is a number that I want you to really understand. This field will serve over 9,500 secondary students in the next 10 years. And thousands of more can play on this field if we start to expand that. We're just talking secondary student. TS hosts all those elementary events, they're coming. Think about the community events. Think about soccer, think about flag football, think about football programs. So in addition to that, the community partnerships would also, we could also have community partnerships with Thorold Minor Sports that I had mentioned earlier, as well as provide access to community members for the turf and the track right in their neighborhood, right outside the door. The cost of the turf in the field, as well as the maintenance, will be provided by the DSBN. Here is the secondary drawing after consultation, and you'll see that there is an inclusion of a playground and a splash pad in this drawing. So here's the great news. Thorold High School is not going anywhere. In fact, we're growing. If you take a look at the projections over the next 10 years, it's projected in 2032, we're gonna have over 1,100 students. Our high school has the capacity to serve all of those students. What we need is to work together with the City of Thorold to provide an extension of this facility to let them have a field to play on as well.
I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap up.
I'm done.
Oh, you're right.
So you can go to the next one. It's just these smiles tell it all. There's a picture of Tim with a couple of the kids. We've had a great relationship with the City of Thorold, and we hope to continue to do so.
Thank you, Janice.
You're
and
welcome.
I'm gonna open the floor for questions from council. Go ahead, Councillor Sent.
And I'm going to invite Stacy up for the questions as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thank you, Janice, for the presentation. When I went to school there was under 300 kids. I really could have used a hockey course to up my grades back in the day, but that's fast. Again, I don't want to, I'm not sure what we can say and what we can't say, but I really believe what you said, that we need to work together. I believe we need to go higher up the food chain together and see if we can get something done for this project. And again, I will be careful as to what I say, but when I say that, I see Stacy's look over there. Maybe the education minister, stuff like that, maybe something can be done with our issues that we know we have. So I'm hoping that we can get something done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Sure. Sorry, if I may just answer the non-question, but just with a little clarification through you, Mr. Mayor, if I may. The recent announcement from the province of Ontario, and specifically the Ministry of Education with the Better Schools and Student Outcomes Act, does have a lot of information with respect to surplus properties and how the province wants to collaborate with local municipalities to determine what would be involved with that. So I do believe that there is interest and statement with respect to province supporting school boards and municipalities working together for community needs.
Okay.
What was it called? Since you don't know?
It's still in proposed legislation.
Oh, okay.
It hasn't been passed yet, but it was announced as part of the Grants for Student Need release.
Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Janice, for the presentation. It was awesome. And it's great to see all the collaborations with the school and our city. And it's great to hear that the students do need volunteer hours, because I know we have a lot of events where we're looking for volunteers. So definitely we will reach out to get some of these students to participate in some of the events we have in our community. I didn't really have a question, but I just want to say that that was wonderful. And my sister did go to Thorold High 50 years ago. That's giving her age away. And they did have a girls' football team back then where she first broke her knee. So perhaps maybe they'll bring women's football back someday. Thank you.
Just so you know, we do have female students playing on our football team currently. Yeah, so it's a co-ed team now. And my email information is included on the last slide. So if you need to reach out, I can put you in touch with our guidance department who help with the volunteer hours.
Thank you.
Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you. I think my question just got answered. What mechanism or what process do you want us to use? Because there's organizations out there looking for volunteers. So do you want them to be put in touch with your guidance department in terms of finding?
What I can do is just email council the contact number, and then you'll all have it.
I think that'd be great, because I do have questions at different times looking for volunteers. So if we could direct them to the school, that'd be great, because they get their hours, and then the community gets the benefit of that. And I'm sure a lot of them will be volunteering at the lemonade stands that are coming up in June, that we're going to be traveling throughout Thorold participating in.
Every Thorold educator just sat on that bench when Jaden was speaking, and we're like, sign Thorold up. Thorold's doing this for sure. Absolutely.
We got to put Thorold on the map, more than 12, and be the leader in Niagara.
Yeah, we want to be the leader this year, for sure. Anyone else have questions? I don't see any. I just want to say I do see some great work with the students at our senior center, helping out at different events there, their bazaars and whatever. And it's they can't say enough about that. You know, that help's so important. Anyway, that's it then. Thank you so much for coming to council,
Thank you.
Janice. And we look forward to working together and community initiatives. Thank you. Okay. This report we're doing next.
Delegation, just advise them that it was added and we move right to the items.
Report PWCS 51/2023 respecting special event permit Thorold BIA car show. There was a written delegation that everybody received as part of your package, which was circulated. So can I get a mover and a seconder to put that on the floor? I got Councillor D'Angelo and Councillor Decker. Whose report is that? Yours?
No, but it's community services.
So,
I can read it. That's fine.
okay, go ahead.
So the recommendations, this was through the consent agenda, that report PWCS 51/2023 be received, that the special event request for the Thorold Business Improvement Area Association BIA to host the Friday cruise nights on Front Street between May 5th and September 15th be approved, pending applicable documentation, and that the Thorold BIA be directed to send an information notice to all residences and businesses within a 1 kilometer radius of the event prior to May 5th as a condition of their permit.
Okay, is there anybody that wants to speak to that? Go ahead.
Get a mover and a seconder,
Oh,
Mr. Mayor?
I need a mover and a seconder. I got Councillor Sentence and Councillor Hanlon. Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I don't know who this goes to, but they also requested the same as we had last year with the free parking. I know it's only monitored till 7, but they asked for that same free parking in behind Henderson's for the events. So can that be added or discussed here?
It can be amendment, can be added, right?
Through the mayor, that's a question more to staff, if anything like that was already included in the application.
That was last year, but he's asking for it again this year. It was from 5 to 7 that parking.
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
That's certainly at council's discretion. I wouldn't say that staff necessarily have any objections to that.
Okay. So do you want to add that as another?
Is it a separate motion or just an amendment or an add?
Add it on that.
Yep, we can certainly add it. You can check if it's a friendly amendment.
So,
Councillor Handley, I believe, seconded that. That's friendly?
friendly, okay, and that the parking be waived between 5 o'clock on, right?
Yeah.
Because it's usually 5 to 7.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
okay, go ahead, Councillor Diaz.
Just clarity, Councillor Sentence asked for the one parking spot, but there's parking at different areas in Thorold, so it'll be waived from 5 to 7 at all the parking lots? Just for clarity?
Yes, I think we had the Hendersons last year. Did we have the other ones?
I think the other ones are 2 hours, so they're already, if you show up at 5, you're good. I think it's for
Yeah.
the paid parking, you know, the one behind Henderson's.
Yeah, just as long as it's standardized so that all the
Yeah.
parking
Sure.
spots are being treated equally
Yep.
and more parking's available.
Yep, that's a good idea.
Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To that question, I just want to raise the point that Lot 1, which would be on the opposite side at the corner of Towpath and Claremont, it is a permit parking only lot, so we wouldn't be able to authorize visitors to park there because there's paid permit holders for that lot, but the remainder of the parking lots would be fine.
Yeah, wherever there's a 2-hour parking now, plus lot, the one with the machines, okay? Okay, any further discussion? I had a mover and a seconder. Mover, Councillor Sentence, seconder, Councillor Hanley. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Items for consent, okay? Now, what one was this one? Is that?
It's already been lifted.
It's already been lifted, good, okay. Is there a mover and a seconder for, to take the items of consent as a block, or are we pulling any? Go ahead, Councillor.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to speak on a few of them. Do you want just the numbers?
Yes, please.
11.1 DF6 2023.
Yeah,
11.4,
okay.
11.9. And that's it for me.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, 11.6. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Jerome.
I believe it's 11.3, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Okay,
Mr. Mayor, if I could add 11.5?
okay, let's go through them then. Give me a mover and a seconder, because we're gonna use the same mover and a seconder on all of them as we go through. Councillor Hanley's a mover, Councillor DeRosa's a seconder. Okay, so, 11.1, let's start there. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I just want to thank our acting CEO or Director of Finance, Ms. Morrow. She sent out an email regarding a question I asked at the last council meeting regarding putting the Canada Summer Games cost as a separate tax item, and thank you for the response. It shows through legislation, if I read the memo correctly, that we're not allowed to do that on that particular item. So I appreciate that, and I just wanted people to be aware, because I had comments saying that that's a good idea, but we can't do it that way. So the only offer, the other suggestion is, I know, and I don't know if we do this for our tax bills, I can't recall, but sometimes we put out little notices of how we spend our tax dollars. So if that's a venue of looking at a way of incorporating in that, it sort of, this is the City of Niagara Falls that does this one. They sort of break down with little pictures where the tax dollars goes. So if that can be given some consideration when we put some sort of tax notice out, that would be great. So I'll leave that, I don't need a response, I just leave that in the Director of Finance's hands. That's the only comment I had. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. That's for 11.1. 11.2, no one pulled. I have the mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, 11.3. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo. That's housekeeping amendment to bylaw 150, 2012. Oh, sorry, Councillor Thorold.
That's right. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question to staff, Jason in particular. I know so I'm looking at page 2, item 12, and it talks about parking on the apron of properties. I've gotten a lot of complaints over the years as to why, since I've been on council, as to why this wouldn't be allowed. And I don't know if it's time to change that. Residents that can only park in their driveway once they have company. And I would think, as long as they're not infringing on the roadway or the sidewalk, is that a consideration going forward, or am I off base? Thank you.
Go ahead, Jason.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor DeRose, I can't speak to the intent behind it. I wasn't with the corporation at the time that council chose to adopt this. My understanding, however, is that it is in efforts to help reduce the probability that a child may run out unseen into the roadway when there's a vehicle blocking that apron. But again, it's at council's discretion as to whether or not they choose to amend that bylaw.
Just one more question, Jason. Thanks for the answer. And yeah, children's safety is huge, so I'm not going to question that. Is this common in other communities to not have apron parking, or is it something specific to certain communities?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is mixed. There are quite a few communities that do have such a regulation, but there are also many that allow it. So it all depends on what the community needs and the desires of that council happen to be.
Can I ask you one more question? Are we able to find out, just in the Niagara region, which communities have it and which don't? Is that possible? There's no rush. It's just a topic that comes up often to people that run out of parking spots. That they can't park on the street, and they're asking why they can't park on the rest of their driveway.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to do that survey of the local municipalities. I just also would like to remind council that they did approve for a parking study in this year's budget. So that's something that we could potentially incorporate into that review.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you want to speak to that, Councillor Deanne?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's, Mr. Simpson sort of captured it. If we're doing a parking study, can we do the rationale behind the apron? I wasn't on council, so I don't know the rationale of why we don't allow apron parking. Some aprons are long enough where you can park almost 2 cars sometimes. And it's, to me, better to get cars off the road. They're sometimes less of a safety issue than having more and more cars on the road. So I'd like to see that rationale and look at how we can mitigate or use apron parking to help facilitate some of the parking problems in our community. But I'm glad to wait till it comes back with the parking report, just as long as it's encompassed in there. So I thank Councillor DeRose for bringing that up.
You'll address that as part of that report, correct, Jason? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's 11-3. I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 11-4. PWCS 37-2023 Community Grant Awards.
Mr. Mayor, I brought that one up. I just looking for a bit of clarity through staff on that report. I know it talks about the lighting for soccer and baseball, and then applying it through community grants. Is that what's going to be the intent of it? Or are we just going to absorb the cost as the fact that it's part of running the field at that time?
Jeff, do you want to answer that, or someone from your group?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it's a short-term solution until we look at all the rates and fees for the whole corporation, which is, I think, another report coming in the next month or so, to look at how we recover these types of costs from our user groups and what's fair and what's not. So I think this is a short-term solution for this year.
So, Mr. Mayor, I don't mind, there's 2 recommendations for 2 items going through there. I just don't see the cost of the lights coming out of community grants. We have a lot of great activities happening in our community. Now we're pulling money out of that fund, which is only about $30,000, and using it to allocate to pay for the cost of lights for both soccer and baseball. when to me, that's just the cost of running the field. It's no different than if we ran the arena and said, okay, let's start charging people more who use it in the daytime because electricity prices are higher, that they should be charged a surcharge for that. It's just the cost of using the field. It should be absorbed as part of our Parks and Rec budget, not come out of the community grants, because we're going to lose out on other great community grants activities. One, I think the two that are coming forward, one is the, is it the garden? Just so you could see, the Thorold Reed Band's one of them, and the other one's the Thorold Garden Club. So now we're having lights compete against those types of communities. So I don't see that as a good balance when that cost is just the cost of running the facility. And unfortunately, sometimes they have to use it at night, and there's a cost of running the lights. So I would rather not have those funds come out of there. Again, I'm ready to waive them at this point in time until the report comes forward with the user fees again. But I want to move forward with the staff is recommending the other two items, and I want those to move forward because they impact positively to our community. So hopefully I was sort of clear on that.
So I get what you're saying. So do you want, the report's gonna come back, but do you want them taken out of this report? I guess that's my.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. All I want us to deal in this report is the two community grant applications, one being from the Thorold Reed Band and the other one from the Thorold Garden Club. And leave the other one to the report that's coming at a future date, and we can deal with how that's gonna be funded, or if it's gonna be adjusted in some manner.
I'll ask Maria if you want to comment on that. How can we do that? And what's the cleanest
Through you,
way?
Mr. Mayor, I believe that the reason that they were included in this report is that as the fee structure stands right now, there is a fee for lighting. Further to what Mr. Holman said, at this point, you are waiving the fees because the fees that are currently in place would dictate that these two groups be charged. Council had brought a motion forward to waive them, so at this point, we view it as a community grant. When that fee report does come forward, if council decides that they choose not to charge these fees, then the funds would just remain in community grants. But at this point, we do feel that it is appropriate that they be reflected as a community grant.
Okay, well, I'm not, to you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not supportive of that. I just think we should leave that till that report comes forward, and I don't want to treat it as a community grant. So if I have to change the recommendation, I will do so at this point in time, that we only include at this point in time the two that are being applied for, the Thorold Reed Band and the Thorold Garden Club, and defer discussion on the fees for the lighting until the report comes forward regarding user fees. That would be my recommendation.
Go ahead, unless.
So, through the mayor, I would just point out you can't do the referral just because you already spoke to it. Another person could certainly separate these two items and refer clause number 2. The other option would be to defeat clause number 2 and pass clause number 1. However, I believe, and I'll leave this to Maria to comment on, as to whether or not that would still leave the question as to where these fees are being paid from.
Where are they gonna be paid from?
So your third option, I suppose, Mr. Mayor, would be to select which, or from where we'll be paying or covering this fee.
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just make a comment, if you look at the total approved budget for community grants versus what has been applied for, there is no erosion. We're not taking money away from other groups because the budget is more than sufficient to cover recommendations 1 and 2.
Go ahead, Councillor Heyman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, my concern would be that if we do not make this part of the recommendation, say it takes Mr. Holman till, say, the middle of July, the lights are going to be used, so then a cost would have to be incurred to the user groups. So they're going to now have to spend monies that if we pass this recommendation tonight, they wouldn't have to spend, because if we don't pass this tonight and fees are incurred, would they not be responsible for the fees until staff makes the recommendation? Someone's got to pay it, because we've already passed it. We already passed it, I believe that they would have to incur cost, and part of this report was so that they wouldn't have to incur cost. So if we delay it, they're going to be responsible for paying for the lighting until a report comes to council. Would that be right, or?
Go ahead. You good?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that is correct. I believe that council has already passed the fees being waived, but then it becomes a question of where we're going to fund it. And we thought that, based on the current structure, that the community grant would be the appropriate place because they are community groups.
I know, Councillor D'Angelo, your intentions, but I can't support your motion because we need to cover the cost for the user groups at this time, and it's not impacting community grants.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to withdraw my motion because at the end of the day, the goal is not to have the user group pay for these. So I don't mind that. So next year when we do our budget, it's going to be included in the operational costs of Parks and Rec, and then it will be no discussion whatsoever, and I'll make sure that happens, so.
And also, we'll get the report prior to that, okay? That's coming back to
Yes,
us.
yes, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor. So I'm okay with the recommendation then.
Okay,
I just
that's
didn't
fine.
want other groups being affected by something that should be covered under operational costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I had a mover and a seconder for that, and he's drawn his motion, so we're voting on the original motion. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 11.5. Did we have 11.5?
That was me, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
This
Thorold
is-
Community Market Update. Go
This
ahead.
is a good news story as we're progressing, and it looks like they've selected a date. My only question I had, because it wasn't in the report, have they selected a location yet for if someone could maybe enlighten me?
Councillor Hanley, you sit with that group. Go ahead.
Yes, we're going to be using the Battle Beaver Dams Park. So we've had several meetings in regards to this, and we were contemplating, as it says, on Saturdays. Now we're going to do Wednesdays, incorporate the Thorold reband there. Our intention is to use the park and the facilities there. Through our meetings and through Dave Baldoni, we had already had an electrical contractor going through the park and that stuff in regards to electrical capabilities. So we're looking at possibly enhancing because we're already in the midst of budgeted item. So we're looking at Wednesdays, and it looks to be a goal. We're looking to have, Stephanie could talk on the issue once, so we're looking to have local entertainment, magicians, bouncy castles type of deal, live entertainment. We're gonna have a community table there that we're looking at. Businesses would sponsor a table, so say the Girl Guides could use it one week, the Thorold TAA could use it another week, Thorold Baseball could use it another week for fundraising activities. Our first year would be free. I believe we're still there. So anybody who would be wanting to get into the market in 2023, there would be no fee for service for this year. We were looking at $300 for following season, so it would give businesses an opportunity to table their wares. And by reading the report, and I know Stephanie's done a substantial amount of work on this, we've seen that there's 3 municipalities that are already doing it on Saturdays, so Wednesdays looked like to be a good fit for us. We've spent a substantial amount of money in our downtown core over the last couple of years. We're looking, like you said, Henry, it's a great enhancement. We've been trying to do this for some time. If I could, Mr. Mayor, just one thing on the report, if I could, or an amendment to the report, or if I could ask. We know that the budgeted request was $11,000, and through Councilor Didovitis, we upped it to $25,000. We're asking, though, that any monies that we get donated to this market through our sponsorship program that I know that you've endorsed and that has been sent out, that not be taking away from the $25,000, that we be able to retain that monies so that we could go over and beyond if we needed to as far as entertainment and venues go. So what I need to put a recommendation to the floor, because I know that we didn't want to, in discussions with the group, to say start at $25,000, then we get $25,000 worth of donations, and now we're at zero. So we wanted to know if we could leave it at the $25,000, any additional donations that we be allocated to the
I'll
committee.
let our Director of Finance, Maria.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, if you could put a motion on the floor to that effect, and that will address any budget overrun in terms of the expenditures with the corresponding funding from the donation.
Yes, if I could put that then, because I know that we do have some donations that are coming forward.
So
I
you
could
want
vote-
to add to the motions?
Yeah.
You're putting an amendment, and the mover was Councillor Sentence, you're the seconders, you're good with that, Councillor?
Yeah, so friendly amendment that any additional fundraising monies be added to the $25,000.
For, if necessary.
If
that You have
necessary.
to draw.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor D'Angelo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's excellent. No, it's a good news story, so I'm glad we're talking about it. The only other item I want to make sure that's captured in there, because we just talked about it for the BIA and their car show, is that if there is a parking issue, if we could do something very similar, depending on the times, maybe the committee could look at that if they need a request from council to waive the parking fees, because with a couple different events going on, we want to make sure there's ample parking and it's free for them to come down there so that we don't have congestions in the side streets, because that's where people go if there's no parking. So I expect both the Reed Band and also this to be very successful. So I anticipate a lot of cars being down there. So if we could get on top of the parking issue before it becomes an issue, it would be greatly appreciated. And since we did it for the other event, you may want to add this to the motion.
Okay, we could that in regards to, if I could add it to Jason's repertoire of duties that you need to do, or Jeff Holman's, in regards to it. But it is a first-time opportunity. I just want to, Councilor O'Hare's been a part of it. Councilor Daidavitis has been a part of it. Myself, we have Rennie Delaney from Small Scale Farms. She's a big part of it in spearheading it in regards to getting vendors and that stuff. So we're very positive that, it might take a little footwork and that stuff and a little initiative to get it going, but we're very comfortable in that it's going to be a successful event and a new thing to the city of Thorold. And we already have the draw the Thorold Reader Band. It gets people down there. And Wednesdays, I think, could be a good fit for us.
I think it's good to tie it to another event, and that's good. And it's a night that you're not competing with other markets.
And if I could on that note, Mr. Mayor, just to let everybody know, I've been in talks with Mr. Glenn Gordon from Rolling Meadows, and he has some signage available. I didn't know that, I see that Jeff's here, but I could have a discussion with him, but he's willing to change the signage on some of his advertising billboards that he has. We have a person that will be doing some marketing. This may be new to Stephanie too, but we're working on it. We have an artist that's going to do a rendition. So if we get some thoughts forward, I can give Mike some information to bring to the meeting on Friday because I won't be available. But we have an advertising venue opportunity, and
So they're already working with staff on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've already approached staff and are working on that signage issue.
Okay, well then great. So just to let council know that we're looking at doing some advertising, Rolling Meadows area. We got a big draw of people out there, Artisan Ridge, Merit Metals, and to get them enlightened, we're going to be doing some billboards, and it's going to be all donated costing through Rolling Meadows Plan of Subdivision.
Thank you. Okay, so we had that amendment there, and you can see that additional funds raised for the market be added to the current $25,000 allotted budget. That is in addition to, it's a friendly addition, and it's in addition to the original report in motion.
Yes,
Okay,
nice.
is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that is carried. No one pulled 11-7 or 11-8. 11-6 we got, yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, who pulled 11-6? Councilor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'd just like to put the motion on the floor that the budget amount requested by Heritage Advisory Committee for $11,800 be granted. There's a difference of $500 there from the staff recommendation. And the reasoning is that last year, due to our immense staffing shortages in the planning department, there was no planning representative to join the committee, and the committee was canceled as of July, and therefore was not able to fulfill its term, and in fact was not able to pay some bills that had already started to roll in. And as a result of that, the money that was left in the budget was turned back into city budgets, and therefore some of these bills have come through in this term. So that is the reason for the request and the motion that I put on the floor.
And do you want to comment on that? Stephanie, do you want to comment on that? Go ahead. That's regarding the heritage allotment.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. We did review all of the budgets as it was brought to us by each of the committee chairs. We did review the Heritage Committee budget. That portion of the budget, staff reviewed and determined that it did not align with the mandate of the terms of reference. That being said, we have spoke with the chair of the committee, and it is our understanding, as Councillor O'Hare mentioned, that some of these expenses were incurred last year. And so in order to move forward with that, they are requesting to have that additional fund included for this year.
Okay. So you want to increase what's shown in the thing by the $500, and so that it's the full ask, is basically.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
And you're putting that amendment on, and I had Councillor Sentence and Councillor, where's Councillor Hanley?
Yes.
I'll move it if you.
Okay, he's not here. I just want him to know if that's, he takes it as a friendly amendment to that. Okay. So, one sec.
Through Mr. Mayor, since you are asking for the additional $500 and that we already have a reallocation to fund it, if I could make a recommendation that since it relates to previous year, which technically our books are closed, but so it should have really been reflected in 2022. But at this point, I would ask that we do add another recommendation that the $500 be funded from the encumbrance reserve.
Okay. So that amendment is that 500 to go to the original amount be funded from the incumbents reserve. And I had a seconder, Councillor D'Angelo. Okay. And is there any discussion on that? That is going to be added, right? And that's friendly because we had a mover and a seconder. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Now, do we have to do the whole group, or is that all of it?
You still have 11.9.
No, but I mean, that was relating to the 500.
You can just pass the balance at the end. We'll do that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. 11.7 and 11.8. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just, when everybody was yelling out numbers, I didn't know if 11.8 got pulled. Could I pull that?
Yeah, you
Okay,
can.
thank you.
I was wondering why someone didn't pull
Yeah,
that,
okay.
but anyway. Okay, 11.7, let's do 11.7. I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 11.8, PWCS 48, 2023, Thorold Community Theater, Allenburg Community Center. Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. So I just want to get straight what's happening there, because I think that group coming was a great idea. I know there's money that has to be spent here, but when we were thinking about, what maybe not even using it in the future, I just want to make sure I'm reading this right in the report. They're gonna get together with the Allenburg Community Group, and then they're gonna discuss different options, or what are we being asked here today?
It's being received for information only,
Right.
but then I'll ask Jeff to
Yeah,
speak.
through you, Mr. Mayor. The intent here is to bring the matter to council's attention. I think the intent is to move forward with discussions with the Thorold Theater Group to look at what improvements might have to take place right away. But we want to be mindful that this building is managed by a board of management who will also want to consider other potential rental opportunities for the community to help generate some revenue. We have a pretty strong recommendation from the Parks, Recreation and Trails Committee about moving ahead. At this point in time, until we know that we have funds available to commit to this group, it's difficult to ask this group to commit to us. So we'll continue on with the conversation, and as we get closer to determining exactly what they need, when they need it, we can come back to council. But we're looking at some sizable expenditures here to upgrade this building, and we should probably have the benefit of our asset management report dealing with all our facilities in front of us before we start allocating funds to one facility or the next.
Okay, that's great. That's perfect. I just didn't want it to be dead in the water, so that's good. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Hanlon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, we met, I sit on the Board of Management. We met with the Thorold Community Group 2 weeks ago, about 2.5 weeks ago. I had a meeting. They made an informal presentation to us and let it be known that some of what we were told or what was made at the presentation was personal feelings, and it wasn't a collective, collaborative majority of the people in the Thorold Community Group, and they were going to go back and have further discussions, for we have a member of the community board that is a member of the Thorold Theater. And at that time, we discussed the stage, the renting of the facility, them being a major tenant. We discussed that we had the dog training groups there. We had some other people that already used the venue, and that we needed to work collaboratively together with them to make sure that there was no one was feeling that they were going to be pushed out by the theater group. The theater group explained that they needed some racking that would have to be hanged from the rafters in regards to accommodate lighting. They would need dry storage. We discussed, would we be able to put a sea can on the property and you could store some of your props ever in a sea can area? They told us no, it had to be in a drier area. So we did have some informal discussions and in length. Actually, it was a couple-hour meeting to deal with it. And at the end of the meeting, it was brought, as Jeff just said, in regards to the asset management plan that the city has, in regards to where we're going. And I let it be known that there was a time when we were actually at a point of council actually closing or possibly closing the Allenburg Community Center because of the Rolling Meadows development there and a possible community center being built there. So there's nothing in stone, as Jeff maybe said, but there's been some informal discussions. They would like to become a tenant because they've noted that they would have to vacate the church area. So right now, they haven't really brought anything back to the board solid as to what they would like, but more or less what we see in front of us is a wish list. But one of the things I could say that we talked about would be the washrooms like we did in Port Robinson. And we kind of explained that the overall expenditure of it probably wouldn't come to be reality, council, seeing that there was a lot of other issues that were of higher importance to the city in regards to infrastructure and maintaining the municipality, you might say, in a more depth, and that spending $1 million on Allenburg Community Center probably would not be something that was going to happen in the immediate future. And I said that not as giving a side as a yes or a no, but just where the city currently stands financially and its commitment to the community center itself. So just to let council know that. So that's where we stand right now.
Well, there's a lot more discussion to be had.
Yeah, there's a lot more discussion to be had because they had, they explained, if I could just elaborate a little further, that they have 3 dates specifically where they need the area. Nobody else would be allowed to use it for a specific period of time while the stage was being prepped, and they had costumes there, so on and so forth. So we let them know and let it be known that we have prior attendance prior to them coming to make a presentation, and that their needs need to be met before the community, Thorold Community Theater's needs would be met. So I just basically told them how it was presently, and we're willing to discuss it and see where it goes from there. And they talked about some financial commitments themselves also. So
Okay, so we'll proceed as such.
yeah. So just to give some little information to council.
Thank you. So that report is being received for information. Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, this is a question for Mr. Holman. This 2023 replacement list, and this is just for my own information, I'm wondering, is this a list that was created in the past and has just been submitted here, or was this recently just put together in this format for the replacement of items, the repair of items? That's part one.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the items listed in the appendix are items that will show up in the asset management plan. So I've basically taken that document and made a list of those items which were recommended for improvement in 2023 and 2024. And you can see there's a sizable list. In the report itself, there's 3 items that were sent to the, included in the deferrals and reductions from the budget discussion of this year. And we didn't even really defer all the work that's really needed to be done at that building.
Thank you. Are there some of these items that can be listed as more critical, pressing, that need to be addressed, and others that still may not have to be addressed? Just, I mean, there's quite a few of them. I'm not sure. Maybe they all need to be addressed immediately, but if it could be broken down some more, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. We can come back with you, to you with some more information. The ones that show up on the deferral list, things like AODA compliance, like making the washrooms accessible and that type of thing, fixing the roof, fixing the fire panel, those are critical items. Replacing the kitchen and, you know, the refrigerators and the chillers and coolers and that type of thing are really going to be dependent on the type of utilization we expect there. And if we have a tenant who might want to use those facilities more often, perhaps there's an opportunity to share in some of those costs through some type of lease agreement.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay.
If I could just say one further thing, Ms. Mayor. That was one thing, Councillor O'Hare, and through Jeff, is that one of the things I discussed is that we have to be ODA compliant by 2025. And we have to remember that if we were going to cater to the theater group, there has to be doors that need to be done, washrooms need to be done. Our biggest expenditure is going to become an ODA compliant so that we could actually house people or to use that for a public venue, because our doors would have to be done, the washrooms and everything. So even though it really doesn't say it here on the 2023 list, if we were to entertain anything, our biggest expenditure is going to become Ontario Disability compliant for 2025.
Thank you. Okay, is there any further discussion? I had a mover and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 11.9, PWCS 50-2023 Experience Ontario Grant Application.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to highlight this one. Again, another good news story. Staff has gone out there, put an application in for specifically a grant, and it ties into the Santa Claus Parade. So I just want to commend them for getting out there and trying to find some money for these events that we're having. Again, another great event here in Thorold, so whatever funds we can generate that's exterior to us, it's beneficial because it just adds to the event. So I just want to highlight that because a lot of times we just pass through these and give no credit for ones that staff have done some extra work and should be applauded for. Thank you.
Thank you. And I had a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And number 11, right? It's just the last one.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
11. I had a mover and a seconder. No one pulled that. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Is that everything then? Okay. Now we move on to items for consideration. 12.1 DS 15 2023 Bylaw Enforcement Service Hours. Can I get a mover and a seconder to put that on the floor? I got a mover, Councillor Decker, seconder, Councillor Dibonitis. Okay, and I'll turn that over to Jason Simpson, Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the recommendations are that the report be received and that option 1 identified in the report, improving citizens' connections during current service hours, be approved with implementation subject to the successful recruitment of the approved staffing.
Thank you. Then I'll open the floor for questions. Are there any questions? Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in the report, it talks about extending the hours of the administrative side beyond 4:30, if I'm correct in reading the report. and the intent is to answer phone calls. Will those phone calls be then redirected to the bylaw enforcement or the parking enforcement that evening? Or are they still gonna be, I just wanna make sure I'm reading that correctly. Because I think right now what happens, if anyone calls after 4:30, it goes to an answering machine, and then it's looked at in the morning by the administrative part of the department. By extending the hours, will those calls then be handled more quickly and get out to the bylaw officers so that they could do a quick inspection for whatever reason that the call is made? Is that the intent? If I could just get a little clarity on that?
Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would say that the intent would certainly be to improve on the response time. Absolutely. How quickly it is responded to would depend on what type of complaint is received, and because there's typically a significant amount of work in the background that has to happen before they even make it their way to the property. If it's a simple parking matter, yeah, that could be addressed on a much quicker basis. But if it's something more significant than that, it may require more time. However, at least then the residents have somebody to actually physically talk to, as opposed to constantly having to leave a message on the machine.
Okay, like I'm definitely in favor of that. When you get a voice and you're talking to it, it helps the individual. So to me, that makes sense that we can deal with that. Because a lot of times there's phone calls made and then the return call isn't made in a while, and that frustrates people. So at least they can indicate what the concern is, articulate it, and then bylaw can move on and start dealing with it as it's logged and reported. And in terms of priority or event-wise, then they could deal with that. So I'm definitely in favor of that. Just one other item. I recently got an email, and I just want to make sure the communication level is good here, because the email was directed to one of the bylaw officers, and they're asking for a meeting, but they're asking for several people to attend this meeting. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Simpson, like, would that bylaw officer inform them that there's an opportunity for them to do it through the public advisory committee meetings, which I'll show you the letter after. I don't want to get into too much details, but is that something, because it's not addressed to the clerk at all, and that's something the clerk would be dealing with. So I just want to make sure that we sort of have a mechanism that's helpful to the citizens. So if they have an issue that they're trying to resolve, it won't get resolved very quickly through the bylaw officer because it's a little bit more enhanced, that they're given a notice or an opportunity that there's another mechanism that they can use to get the proper people in the room to deal with the issue. I just want to make sure that's captured in a proper format. So again, it's going to the communication with the residents so that they know that they can't get this issue resolved by dealing with the officer. It's beyond his scope, but it needs to be done. But they know that they can come to a public meeting that was instituted quite a while ago. So maybe if you could just give me a little background so I have a better understanding, so when I'm talking to the public, I could help advise what they need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So when there's a concern that is beyond the scope of what a bylaw officer would typically deal with, and I am familiar with the letter, I did read it today. The process would be the issue to come to the direct supervisor, which at this point in time is myself, to see if I can resolve the issue. We certainly don't want to inundate council with all of the bylaw concerns. However, if it's a policy issue or something that the supervisor of that department is unable to resolve and the resident wishes to pursue it further, then absolutely, one of the recommendations or options that I would provide to them is that they could request a public forum committee before council to raise their concerns.
Mr. Mayor, that's the answer I wanted to hear, so I'm glad that's the process that's happening. So the letter's on your desk. You'll look at it, see what you can do, and then if it needs to go further, the process is there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Answers my questions.
Councillor Sentence, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the options. I appreciate option number one with a little more enhancement. And I know you're working within the budget and what you're given and all that stuff. I just have a few questions. For me, option two is where we want to be. It's what we've talked about. Sorry, I'll say what I've talked about over the years as covering everything and what people have asked for, and weekends, because the other one has no weekends, and later. So my questions are this. So I see how much it's gonna cost if we go with number 2. Maybe this is for yourself or for Maria. Are we able to use development charges for, if we went option number 2, are we able to use, I see we have a very healthy business or building reserve that we are building up and only getting stronger. Is the parking, the third question would be, is the parking, the 2 parking officers, are they gonna make more than what they're being paid? That we could say, okay, well, that money can also be speculated. That money could also be used for option 2. Because that to me is where we need to be. But I know it costs money to get there, and I'm just wondering, Maria, and
I'll start with Maria,
Okay.
and then if Jason has to chime
Through
in.
you, Mr. Mayor, I'll take the first 2. Jason can take
All
the
right, thank
last
you.
one. Unfortunately, development charges are not for operational expenses. They're only for capital items, and parking was recently removed from the DC list. So I don't believe we would be able to use development charges certainly to fund the operational and possibly also the capital portion.
not the 155 part there, no?
It's, like I say, parking was removed
Right.
from the DCs last year, so I don't think we would be able to utilize that. With respect to the building reserve, that is legislated, and it can only be used for building purposes and not for bylaw purposes. And I'll defer the parking question to Mr. Simpson.
Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As council may recall, there was an anticipated increase in revenue and as a result of parking enforcement identified in the budget, pending the recruitment of the approved second parking enforcement officer. We have not been successful to date in recruiting for that position yet, but we are continuing to try. And the anticipation is that, yes, revenue will increase as a result of having that second officer. But I would also like to remind council that as enforcement increases, the goal is compliance. So we're hoping that the number of infractions actually decrease as a result of enforcement, which would actually end up reducing revenue in the end. So it's a fine balance and not something we have a lot of control over. So it's hard to say.
Okay, thank you for the answers. Not what I wanted to hear, but thank you for the answers. Just my thoughts. We'll go with number 1. I understand it's within what we have, but for the next budget, I'd love this number 2. This is where we need to be. If we can think about this for next year, I know it's a ways away, but this is where we need to be with our bylaw and coverage, in my opinion. So, thank you.
Go ahead. Yep, thank you, Councillor Sentence. Councillor Thorold.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councillor Sentence. I love option 2, just the cost at this point is prohibitive, I think, to doing it. I think going forward, if we can figure out something for the next budget year, I would even enhance it more past 10 o'clock, because I think that's on the weekend, that's when all the action's happening, and that's when people are dealing with neighbors that are having Airbnbs and they're not supervised, the person's not living there, and many issues going on. So I'm going to support option 1 at this point, but I think going forward, I think we need to get to option 2 somehow, and if Maria can work some magic with some numbers, maybe we can, maybe a bet on a Super Bowl or something. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Simpson. Great options are, of course, an improvement over what we have, and I always support that. I think they're super initiatives, and I agree with my 2 councillor friends who also would love to hit option number 2. I think that's a great plan for hopefully not too far in the future. My question is a very simple one, and because it is going to open up times after the city is shut down after 4:30, will there be a different phone number that residents have to call? Will they be able to dial directly? How is that going to work? Thank you.
Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So currently the way it works is that when a resident calls after hours, they receive an automated system that identifies they push a certain number for a particular service. When the number is pressed for bylaw enforcement, currently it goes to an extension that, of course, is not manned at the time, and it would result in having to leave a voicemail message. The intent would be that extension that it would be directed to would be manned, and so that somebody would be there, so it wouldn't change the phone number in any way. Then they'd be able to speak to a person, hopefully. That's the intent.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions regarding that? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just going back to option one, there's some days that don't get serviced in terms of parking enforcement. Is there any way of working around that so that, I believe there should be parking enforcement every single day at every hour, but not necessarily all the time, just so that, if it's, say, Sundays and there's no parking enforcement out there, you're going to get violations on a regular basis. But if there's some ticketing done on that day sporadically, then it gives a perception out there that there's more enforcement than actually is happening on certain days. Is that, through you, Mr. Mayor, something that we can sort of manage under option one?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Mayor. So on those days that have been identified as no service, and that is subject to change, the schedule is never set in stone permanently, but we don't have the manpower to provide parking enforcement coverage by parking enforcement officers every day with the extended hours. However, the bylaw enforcement officers do have the ability to issue parking infraction notices. So on an as-needed basis and as we're able to accommodate, the bylaw officers would be able to provide parking enforcement during those days. It just wouldn't be as extensive as it would be on the other days when we actually have parking enforcement officers on duty.
Again, good to hear, because if there's issues and calls coming in, at least someone is dealing with the parking issues on days where we don't have a full complement. So good to hear.
And then there's one other thing, and which we talked about earlier, Jason, is regarding when there's special events, like say it's move-in week or different events through the year. We do, Jason tries to get coverage, extra coverage for those, to cover those times when we know there's possibility that we're going to have more issues out there. Okay. Okay, so that's the report. I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. DS 27-2023, Allenburg Estates Plan of Subdivision and Subdivision Agreement, D12-02-2020. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? I got a mover, Councillor Hanley, and a seconder, Councillor DeRose. And I'll turn that over to Jason to put that on the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations of this report are, one, that the final plan of subdivision for the Allenburg Estates Plan of Subdivision, known as part of Unit 15, Plan D-5, designated as Part 1 on 59R-17189, City of Thorold, be approved. 2, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the subdivision agreement for the Allenburg Estates Plan of Subdivision between the City of Thorold and Allenburg Estates Limited. And 3, that the necessary bylaw be prepared and provided to council for consideration.
Thank you. Is there any questions or any comments regarding that? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Simpson. Just a quick question. Will site plan approval come later? Is that how this works?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because we've had a number of plans come forward, and this one here I can't tell, but the question of sidewalks has come up quite a bit. So that we would address that later on in site plan.
Go ahead, Jason.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Give me one moment here. Actually, it may be worthwhile. I believe we have our planner available to us. He may be able to answer that question a little bit quicker than I can.
And who's on?
Nick Bogart.
Welcome, Nick. Can you answer that question from Councillor Longo, please? Or do you
Good
want him
evening.
to, do you want him to repeat it, or,
I think I got it, Mr. Mayor.
okay?
So this application that's up here is for a draft plan of subdivision. So the registering the plan would approve the lots, so there wouldn't be a site plan process required for that. It would simply have the lots approved, and then they would be developed in accordance with the engineering plans that are already prepared and approved. If it was a site plan, that would be something like a townhouse block that we'll see on the next application that you might be thinking of sidewalks for.
So that would be on the next, on the site plan, is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay, Councillor, do you have any further questions, Councillor Longo?
I guess since we have a planning expert on, so would our official plans require a sidewalk in this subdivision?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The provisions for providing sidewalk, those are required through the engineering department. So I don't have the detailed engineering drawings in front of me, but I believe in the case of a street with regular lots, there would be a requirement for sidewalks as part of that.
Okay, and then I think Councillor O'Hare had his hand up. Go
Thank you,
ahead.
Mr. Mayor. Through you, I believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bogart, but I believe DSBN put a condition in that sidewalks be a part of this development to aid school children who had to walk through the community to the bus locations. I believe that's already in the contract.
That could be. I don't have all the details in front of me. That's usually a requirement for development with single lot subdivisions or even street townhouses.
Yeah, it
where
was
you have
a
traditional
condition.
subdivision development. You've
Exactly,
got,
it was a
lots like
condition.
that in the sidewalks.
Exactly, it was a condition requested, and I believe they agreed to it. So I believe we're going to see sidewalks in there.
Okay. Any further questions regarding this report? Okay, I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. DS 26/2023, zoning bylaw amendment 49 Hayes Road. Can I get a mover and a seconder to put that on the floor? Councillor Sentence, seconder, Councillor Dividitis, and I'll again turn this over to Jason Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations of this report are, one, that the Development Services Report DS 26-2023 be received. Two, that the zoning bylaw amendment to amend zoning bylaw 60-2019 to rezone the subject lands from FD to R3D-88 with special regulations be approved. Three, that the zoning bylaw amendment to amend zoning bylaw 2140-97 to rezone the subject lands from RD to R3-23 with special regulations be approved. And fourth, that the amendment to bylaw 60-2019 be passed at the same time as the amendment to bylaw 2140-97. That concludes the recommendations.
Again, are there any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, again, I believe it was Councillor Longo who brought up the point that there were no sidewalks initially shown in the plan of this subdivision. And when I read the response to the questions and comments, it says the applicant was able to clarify related to sidewalks, indicating they are not typically required in relation to developments and with private streets, but could be reviewed further through site plan process. So I'm wondering, is that a condition that we can establish ourselves so that they do install sidewalks in this subdivision? I mean, we have how many homes in here? 53, I believe, and so we're talking children that'll have to be walking through the neighborhood. Some of the roads I take from the planning drawings that I've seen do seem perhaps one way, if I'm correct there. So they may be a little bit tight as well. Is this a condition that we can request from the developer to put those sidewalks in? Thank you.
Go ahead, Jason.
Mr. Mayor, if I could refer that to Nick Bogart, please.
Nick, you're back. And I'll ask
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Yes, to clarify on the sidewalks, that's right, that often through a townhouse development like this, there aren't sidewalks that are incorporated. I can advise that one of the comments from engineering that we will address through the site plan does speak to providing appropriate sidewalks, and it talks about curbing and meeting AODA requirements as well. So that'll be one of the items that we look to address through site plan. So there'll be some work with the applicant to try and incorporate that so that we can have those taken care of.
Excellent, thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to staff or to our planning consultant, do we need to amend our policy so that it's, every time we've been to 3 public meetings now, and we've always discussed the sidewalk component, which is always brought up, can we not make it just mandatory that it's done? And if we have to change a policy, how do we go about doing that so it's not a discussion every public meeting regarding this, and that it's an automatic? Because at the end of the day, we're looking at safety, we're looking at active transportation. It should be part of our overall plan of planning properly in our community and maintaining that. Because if not, what will happen is, if we don't do it now, the residents in that area are going to ask for council to do it later, and then now the cost is now borne on council as opposed to the developer making his own little subdivision a little safer. If I could get someone to respond to that, if we need to make an amendment to some sort of policy so that it's an automatic.
Nick or Jason, would that have to be done within our comprehensive zoning bylaw, or would that fall under a separate policy?
So, Mr. Mayor, it would not fall under our zoning bylaw, something that would be addressed through said report, but it is something that we can look at. I'm not sure if the proper mechanism would be our official plan, or if it would be our site plan bylaw, but it's something that we can certainly look at and bring back to council with a recommendation.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that would be very amenable, that we look at this and have it come back so that it's a step that's never missed. It's got to be in there. Then when we see the diagrams, we'll see those sidewalks there. Thank you.
Yeah, because that's just staff direction. Are you good with that? Okay. Very good. Any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if I really have a question because it's been asked, but I have some comments to make.
Go ahead.
You know, to say that we're going to work with the developer to try to implement it, you know, I don't know how much faith I have in that. This is a public safety issue. This is a large condominium complex with multiple roads that could potentially not have sidewalks. It's a public safety issue. I think it's something that we need an answer. We need to know that there are going to be sidewalks in here. Not well, we'll work on it and hopefully it works out, because I think I have a good feeling what's going to happen here. If the developer could do this, he would be here tonight saying, I will be putting sidewalks in. I have a hard time believing that's going to happen. And I don't want to see, I don't know what we're approving here. If we approve this, are we giving a blank check to a condominium development with no sidewalks? So
I'll get Nick to answer that first, and then you can continue. Okay?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Nick. We want to make sure this is going to be addressed. So I guess that's what we're. If you could give us some guidance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, just to clarify the application coming tonight, so it is just the zoning be approved. There will be the further application for a site plan, and the condominium application will come at a future date as well. And it's done like that just so we can make sure the site layout is addressed before the condominium comes forward. So just give background on that. And certainly, as I mentioned, the sidewalks was a comment from engineering that we need to address. So that is something that will be taken care of as part of the site plan.
Councillor Longo, go ahead.
Well, I appreciate that, but again, I'm concerned that if we change the zoning, then we can open ourselves up to neighborhoods without sidewalks. So I'm trusting that staff is going to work with the developer here on the next steps forward and stress the fact that we need sidewalks here. That's all I'll say.
Thank you. Jason? You've heard that that's a major concern as well. Engineering has already highlighted it as well, but we need that to be addressed, absolutely. Go ahead, Councillor Long.
Well, I just want to say, Mr. Mayor, this was a major concern during the public meeting. Should have really been,
Yeah.
there should have been notes in here regarding that concern, because there were at least 3 councillors who brought it up.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, this is directed to you, Mr. Bogart.
Yep.
So again, you speak of site plan and site plan approval, and that this will be discussed further. Will it come back to us after site plan, and will we have the option to turn it down if there are no sidewalks?
Go ahead, Nick.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the site plan approval is done at a staff level. The condominium approval, that's done by council. So that the condominium would come back to council for final approval.
And on that, we should see sidewalks.
You would.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
I just want to be clear then, because we have been having staff turnover, right? So I don't want to make sure that we don't lose sight of this, so that, that's why I was trying to find a mechanism that it's an automatic, that the sidewalks are in there. So there's no site plan approval by staff unless there's sidewalks in it. So that's my big concern. It addresses Councillor Longo and Councillor O'Hare, because the 3 of us were at the meeting that stressed that. So I know it's going to fall on staff, but I just, with our turnover, I'm a little concerned there, so.
Well,
is there-
Jason's been here from day one, so.
Yes.
Falls under his supervision.
Okay. All right, so if
Okay.
there's no sidewalks, we know who to blame.
We know. Basically, in a roundabout way, that's what I. Okay.
Thanks for the confidence level, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, we had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we got two motions, but before we do that, are there any notices of motion for the next meeting? Go ahead, Councillor Sands.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to put a notice of motion to ask staff for a report. I guess that's how it'll be done, on how to start a tree giveaway program like St. Catharines has.
Okay, you're gonna bring that forward next meeting.
Next meeting,
And you'll
yeah.
work with the
I'll
clerk's
work with
office
Matthew. Yep.
to do that, okay? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Hand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had some time ago was going to bring a notice of motion forward in regards to getting a legal opinion in regards to the Canada Games Consortium Agreement. And I was asked to amend it and not bring it forward until Councillor DeRosa's questions could be asked in regards to his requesting financials. To this day, it's my understanding that no financials have been supplied from the consortium and no attempt has ever been made. So I believe as a partner, we have a right or a responsibility to the taxpayers, seeing that we're 1/3 owner of this.
Just notices a motion, but I think that,
Okay, it's
that,
notice of motion regards.
This understatement by Councillor, he was gonna ask that question, I think he has an answer coming. Am I correct? Yeah, so there's gonna be an answer coming under statement by councillors regarding that.
I respect that. There was an answer coming 3 months ago too, and I was asked to
I'm telling you
put
that
my
if
motion
if
forward.
our staff's got the information, they will move it forward, and that is gonna be answered when, under statement by councillor. When he asks the question, you'll get an answer from the Director of Finance.
And if I'm not happy with the answer, can we go back to notices of motion so I can put my motion on the floor?
We'll allow that.
Please?
We have two motions then, okay? The first one is telecommunication resources. And I'll call on Councillor DeAngelo for his motion. Do you have a seconder for that motion? Seconder, Councillor Longo. And I'll turn it over to you, Councillor DeAngelo.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I brought this up at the last meeting, just because I noticed under the accounts payable that we had a lot of charges, cell phone, some landlines. So I thought it'd be good to just give a review, especially how the way business is being done is done a little differently. Just as Mr. Simpson pointed out, if someone calls bylaw, it not necessarily goes to the desk, but it gets relayed to someone that has a phone. So I just want to make sure the appropriate staff have the correct phones. We're not paying for double lines where we have a landline and a cell phone line. And then also by communications, that's also internet, making sure that we have the proper internet in the different locations in our community. So and to make sure that we're sort of following what other municipalities do in terms of who actually has cell phones, who's responsible to have them, and who's not, and looking at those costs a little bit more thoroughly. Again, because there's an extensive amount of bills going through the accounts payable, that's why I brought it up. So it's more basically a bit of a review of our communication technology, and not necessarily going out to tender to get a cheaper price, but to make sure what we have is being utilized to the efficiency and the cost is being borne so that we're getting maximum use out of it. So that's why I brought that one forward. So it's a bit of a review. I'm in no big rush, like it's that. I know this will take a bit of time, and it takes staff on this, so I don't look for an answer this first quarter, or past the first quarter, second quarter. This might be like third or fourth quarter of the year. Hopefully before we go into budget next year. Thank you.
Thank you. And so you had a seconder, Councillor Longo. Is there any further discussion on that? And there's the motion. You see it on the screen. Everybody's good with that? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Then I had the second one, environmental impacts, and that was Councillor Longo. And do you need a seconder for that?
I think Councillor O'Hare.
Councillor O'Hare. So I had a mover, Councillor Longo, seconder, Councillor O'Hare, and I'll turn it over to you, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll read the motion first, and then I'll make a comment. In accordance with Notice of Motion Submission Deadline Requirement, Section 11.1 of the City of Thorold's Procedural Bylaw, City Clerk received from myself a motion to be brought forward for consideration tonight, respecting to amend the council report template to include a section for environmental impacts. So, Mr. Mayor, what I'm looking for, and this is through discussion with our Environmental and Sustainability Committee, the City of Thorold, what we do for 15 reports tonight we had in front of us, we look at different pillars that sustain us. And we continually look at economic pillars and social pillars. How does it reflect and impact our budget? And what does it do for community in terms of our strategic plan? But the one thing missing is the environmental impact. How do our decisions affect us from an environmental standpoint? And what I'd like to see, and what the committee would like to see, is a section on our report templates, when applicable, to discuss any environmental impact, okay? And I'll give you an example. We had a company come here tonight called Northland Power. They gave a great presentation, but there's gonna be a report that comes back to us. And that report should have an environmental impact, if there is any, okay? He talked about scrubbers. How have they improved? How's it gonna affect the city moving forward? So things of that nature. And I'll give one more example, Mr. Mayor. Last term of council, you'll probably remember, an item came up where we talked about changing some parking on Regent Street. Without questioning, if questioning hadn't taken place by Councillor Neal at the time, and he asked about the trees that were gonna be, and if any trees would be affected. And lo and behold, we found out that some 100-year-old maple trees were going to be cut down, put a few parking spots in. And that wasn't included in the report. So what I'm looking for, and what the committee's looking for, is some sort of way to catch these environmental issues that could take place and affect us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to that? Go ahead, Councillor Hand.
I can support that. And one of the reasons, but he makes a great point. You know, we just approved a fire hall, and we just approved a new public works building. And it's the goal of the current federal government to eliminate natural gas, and actually looking at eliminating, even purchasing natural gas furnaces and eliminating natural gas as a way of heating. But yet here we are, we're going to spend about $15 million and we never addressed that in neither of those buildings. And I actually brought it up, and I say, see, if we would have addressed it, as Councillor Longo said, maybe we could have installed a boiler that would burn wood chips, that would be an energy source, that I went back and looked at, and I presented it here at council almost 15 years ago. Actually, at the time, I got council to go in regards to hedging electricity. Maria might remember, but that was an environmental issue. So I agree with Councillor Longo. Maybe we should have that at the end, because we've already engaged ourselves in this past budget in 2023 and supported multi-million-dollar projects where in the future, natural gas will be eliminated, and we're going to have to switch these facilities over to electricity, because you may already know Enbridge is already offering rebates up to $4,500 to change from natural gas to a heat exchanger. That's at a cost of about $14,000 just for household and do some research. So I agree with Councillor Longo. We need to start looking at environmental impacts when the reports come forward, especially when we do these big capital projects such as the fire hall and the new public works facility. So I'll endorse his motion for sure.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, and statement by councillors. Councillor Thorold.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I just wanted an update, as Councillor Hanley referred to earlier, about the financials from the 2022 Canada Summer Games Park. I just wanted to know why there is a delay. There's obviously a delay. I'm not blaming our staff or trying to put our staff under the gun. And just if the second part of my question is if staff can provide a time frame as to when the report can be provided to council. Thank you.
And I'll turn it over to our Director of Finance.
Through you,
and Acting CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as a consortium partner, we have been waiting for the finalization of the audited financial statements. I did receive them this afternoon, so we'll come to council at the next meeting in May with the numbers.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Hanley? Okay, they'll come next.
We'll wait for the next meeting.
Thank you. Okay, now we're into closed session. Okay. I don't have to do the first part. I need a mover and a seconder to move in closed session for the purposes of receiving information of a confidential nature a matter respecting labor relations and employee negotiations under sections 239 2D of the Municipal Act 2001 contract agreement, and a matter respecting personnel matters about an identifiable individual under section 239 2B of the Municipal Act 2001 runway of recognition inductees award winners. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor O'Hara and a seconder, Councillor Decker. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And now we'll have to clear the chambers before we go